hole for our children to be stuck in for decades. They will take that war hole and just stick our kids in there till they come back so beat up and chopped up mentally and physically that they'll be incapable of reproduction or positive influence in one society, much less resistance to any authoritarian regimes.
Let me say right now, I reorganized my whole event in Cochise County to focus on the veterans. I think it is a national tragedy that more of my brothers died from suicide here in the United States after they got home from Vietnam than were killed in Vietnam. And the same thing is happening with our troops from Iraq and from Afghanistan, and now we're going into Libya. And even some patriot groups are trying to point out, well, we need to go in Libya, we need to get rid of Gaddafi. And yesterday on my show, William, I pointed out that in 1951, Libya was the poorest country in the world, and today it's got a literacy rate of 85%. The gasoline is 16 cents a gallon, and the Gaddafi is riding around in an open limo, standing up, waving his arms at thousands of Libyans. Nobody's mad at the Libyans, at Gaddafi in Libya. The government gives a married couple, if you get married, the government gives you $50,000 to buy a house. Why are we at war in Libya? And why is suddenly John McCain got his arms around Al-Qaeda, supposed Al-Qaeda rebels who have started a central bank in Libya, and why is Al-Qaeda good guys there and there were bad guys around 9/11? Why is that?
Well, look, you and I both know, unfortunately, there are people all across this country that will support a war just because there's a war. But think because there's a war or something violent's going on, the United States government's doing, they need to support it. Automatically. Indiscriminately. Without reservation. And do you think that you can really go around and create real democracies through invasion? Do you think that's how it works? Do you think that since our democracy or republic is in trouble here, that another power would invade with tanks, guns, bombs, and fix that for us, and then leave us to our freedom and our prosperity? Really? Really? Because I don't know anything in the world that works like that, Clay.
I don't either.
Okay? And the United States has sat there and, granted, Cindy Sheehan and Toad Pink and some of the real lefties that have been making us think about the war are not our type of folks, but by not speaking out against Iraq and Afghanistan, by not putting a stop to a 10-plus year war, by supporting nation building, by letting Bill Clinton and NATO go in and build nations in Yugoslavia, and by nation building in Iraq, and by nation building in Afghanistan. Gee, now there's nation building going on right here in the United States of America. Elites not using tanks and bombs are building a new nation over our heads. They're destroying the United States of America as you've known it and we've loved it. And they're building a new superstate right over our heads. They're building it now, and you can see it, feel it, and taste it if you just orient yourself on looking at it. So here we are. Now granted, even if, from what I know how these people act, even if 80% of Americans jumped up and marched in the streets 7 years ago against the wars in Afghanistan and Iraq, we'd still be there. Because this is an illusion. I mean, that's the thing. My job, and it's getting really tough for me, my job is to get people writing Congress and lobbying Congress and stuff like that. But in truth, I know that we're occupied under some form of authoritarian government that keeps up the appearances that Congress and the people have some sway on what happens when you look at the core issues of the economy and the stolen billions of dollars in bailouts and the billions of dollars spent each week through the companies that keep the troops fed and everything else on the war, keep them on the other side of the planet. And one thing, I don't know if you can find out the truth about this. I'm going to put the big a warning disclaimer on this because I've been sent some stuff about this on email, and I get so many emails today I can't really track down and look into everything.
I understand that.
I've been told that the body count for Iraq and Afghanistan is being artificially interpreted as very low because they're not counting troops that die after they've been medevaced. Of course, because of great advances in medical technology and transportation, you know, we're able to get our injured troops stabilized a bit and transported out of there pretty quickly. I've been told that the death count of troops is much higher, but they're not counting it. They're only counting the combat deaths of people who perished while on the ground in Iraq and Afghanistan, and they're not counting the ones that die, which are much larger numbers actually, after they've been medevaced. Have you heard anything about that?
I have heard that rumored that they don't, you know, and they did the same thing with the Iraq war. There's many more. They just counted them if they shot them right there on the battlefield, but if they died in the hospital coming back, they didn't count them as a death.
Well, I'd like to know if that's true, because that's true. That's something that should be all over the place. But back to the original point, can you really support the invasion and takeover and nation building of other nations without it eventually coming back and biting you on the rear?
Well, even Ron Paul...
Can you live by the sword and not die by the sword? Can you support that type of activity towards others without it karmatically coming back and biting you on the rear? This is there's a form of nation building going on here in the United States, and the non-enforcement of our existing federal immigration laws, allowing the vast mass invasion of the country.
Don't they call that? Don't they call what's happening here, William? Don't they call that balkanization? I mean, they're dividing Americans. Divide and conquer is the key, and we got 30 million illegals here. You know, it's like Benjamin Franklin and Thomas Jefferson warned us about letting the banks, and Benjamin Franklin referred to democracy as two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. Now, these illegals have bragged about this. I mean, they brag about this. This is public knowledge. They made public statements. You know, time for you old folks to die. We're
right now, we know for a fact, based on official congressional hearings by Congressman Darrell Issa, that the President of the United States, his executive branch, has used the Department of Justice, the ATF, the FBI, and even parts of the CIA to use our taxpayer money to buy thousands of assault weapons for the invading cartels that are bringing in 90+% of America's cocaine, methamphetamine, and illegal immigrants. The cartels moving across our border from Mexico into the United States are carrying AK-47s, Draco pistols, and Barrett 50 caliber rifles provided to them by the Obama administration.
That's right, and I've had Larry Pratt from Gun Owners of America on my show talking about that, and it's happening. I mean, and nobody's even looking at it. I mean, the Congress is supposedly trying to investigate this, but they're stonewalling them, aren't they?
They're stonewalling them, and once again, you got to get past globalist John Boehner. He's going to be the first line of defense to sit on top of it. Behind the scenes. Oh, that's not something we want to stir up. That's, you know, they're going to move some people around and fire some people. No, they won't fire anybody. They'll just move them into other payroll positions so that they'll have an interest in not turning state's evidence. And it will just sort of sweep us under the rug and move on. Because somewhere, you know, they always somewhere down the line, they're going to have some Republican hands in it. And if you dig deep enough, then the Obama people leak out probably something. Bush probably has something to do with it too. Because pretty much these are the same globalist plans. Bush and Obama have about the same plans on immigration altogether. All that Obama has done has become more overt and officious about it. I mean, Bush had a de facto amnesty for illegal immigrants because he was pretty much not enforcing most of the immigration laws against employers and everything else. He did a couple showy raids here, and you know, would do a couple showy raids, and the rest of immigration enforcement was off. Obama has just done it, you know, more so. So, what are we going to do? You know, I mean, he took my money, I tax money, and bought assault weapons for mass murderers.
And nobody's held accountable for that.
No. I mean, we're trying to, what we're doing, Americans for Legal Immigration Act, is a peaceful political organization that's spreading word about this, condensing the message, lobbying Congress to act, asking for the impeachment of President Obama. I will say this, that one of the things that your listeners will be very interested to know is that since Obama did his executive order, well, it wasn't fully an executive order, his amnesty by memo order about 15 days ago, and then scurried off to Martha's Vineyard to remove himself from anybody asking him any questions from the media or anything else about it. And he did it on a Thursday at the end of a press cycle for the week, and he did it while Congress was going on recess till right after Labor Day. His numbers have fallen to new lows. His last major policy act was this illegal alien amnesty, and his word is slowly spreading about what he's done. His approval numbers are dropping to historic lows. So one of our efforts to talk radio shows like yours and many others, and our email alerts list at alipac.us, and the many other fine websites and bloggers and online reporters and great groups like WorldNet Daily and InfoWars by Alex Jones and others, we're spreading the word about what Obama has done with the Fast and Furious scandal, using our tax dollars to arm the Mexican invading cartels and their to protect their cargo of drugs and replacement Americans.
In my book, Mystery Babylon, I detailed the whole story of Operation Watchtower that was commanded by Colonel Edward P. Cotolo of the Special Forces there in Massachusetts. And that was our CIA bringing the drugs, and the Mossad bringing the drugs in to Panama and then on into Arkansas. So I mean, are we arming drug cartels, or did the CIA take over the drug cartels and become the drug cartels? That's what it feels like to me.
Well, there's a lot of evidence that the relationship between our government and drugs goes back a long way. Like, at least, you know, probably all the way back to Vietnam and some of the stuff that, what's that guy's name we talked about before? Bo Gritz is...
Bo Gritz, yes. He documented that and then stopped short from telling you who was on the top end of that drug chain. But then, you know, he's always been counterintelligence, sir, so...
Well, yeah, I've also wondered if he was what they called in Russia, a lightning rod, a guy to go around and start talking about a particular negative thing the government wouldn't want out, and see who all takes the bait and contacts and whatever.
You've got two. According to Bo Gritz, he saved Randy Weaver, and that's certainly one way to look at it. You know, on the other hand, you can say that Bo Gritz went in and arrested Randy Weaver for the FBI because the FBI was surrounded by the Montana militia.
Well, he also stopped Randy Weaver from becoming a more powerful figure as a martyr.
Yes.
If Weaver had been murdered, he would have been
another
a
Gordon
greater symbol.
Another Gordon Call or another Waco.
Well, the thing about it is, we know right now that a full spectrum of agencies under the Obama administration has just put assault weapons. If you or I, or let's say you and me together, have done this, Clay, if we had done exactly what the congressional hearings have proven that these federal law enforcement agencies have done, working and with a high degree of interagency cooperation, all under the auspices of the White House, which I think pretty much tells us pretty clearly. I think that if it was just the ATF involved, Clay, then you could claim that maybe this was just isolated. And even if it was just the ATF and their overseers now at the Department of Justice, you could still try to make the claim that it was just a renegade faction within the Obama administration that did this. But no, it's confirmed that we've got at least 4 executive branch agencies, FBI, CIA, ATF, DOJ, all have their fingers in the Fast and Furious scandal. So the defense is that this was a sting, but this wasn't a sting. There was no stinging going on. No stinging. They paid for the weapons with FBI informants out of Mexico and told the FBI watchdogs to stand down and watch the guns go out the doors of the gun shops and the trucks roll back south. And I think they put a tracking device on the shipments or some of the guns once or twice out of multiple shipments. Didn't even track them. There was no, the only tracking was when the guns showed up later in arrests and crime scenes in the hands of different people using them. I find when you look at what they were doing and you compare it to legitimate law enforcement similar activities around the world, this doesn't cut it. The claim that this was a law enforcement sting operation is factually incorrect. That's not what this was. This is not anything that any sane law enforcement around the planet does. They say, okay, we want to stop the bad guys from killing lots of people with high-grade weapons and important drugs. What are we going to do? Well, I got an idea. Let's get the money from the U.S. taxpayers and give it to informants working for the FBI to buy, and we'll tell all of our people, stand by as the shipments are made. We'll buy them an army's worth of assault weapons and just give it to them without any tracking or attempt for us to follow up and get these. Oh, and let's not even tell the Mexican government. I mean, imagine if any time during the history of the United States of America it was found that the Mexican government had used Mexican tax resources to purchase and to fund thousands of weapons being moved into the United States that were killing our citizens, it would be an act of war, and we would deploy troops to attack said country and destroy said American troops would be taking those guns back out of dead, bloody cartel member hands. That's what would be happening. That's what's happened here, but that's not the reaction. The reaction is, oh no, this isn't an act of war. This was just a silly law enforcement thing. You know, because law enforcement does silly stuff, right, Clay?
Well, this is exactly what Sheriff Deaver of Cochise County wanted me to do. He wanted me to bring this kind of information to attention because the sheriff, his deputies, are at risk from exactly what you're talking about. These drug cartels, they're shooting across the border. They're shooting Border Patrol agents. They've killed Border Patrol agents. And Border Patrol agents have been put in jail for trying to stop these people, like Nacho Ramos.
Yeah, Ramos and Campion.
Yes.
Yeah. Yep.
So I said, well, we could do it. I'll do it for you, but I'm going to do it for the veterans because I believe the veterans are homeless. A lot of veterans are homeless out there. They just built a $30 million center here in Tucson for them. And on Veterans Day, there's going to be a parade of motors. There's going to be a veterans parade downtown, and then they're going to the new veterans home for about an hour's worth of speeches, and then they can follow a bunch of motorcycles out to Tombstone. I'm going to get the sheriff to open up the main street, Allen Street, to motorcycles for Veterans Day, so we can get photo ops and really try to honor the veterans. And I want to put veterans together with the ranchers because the ranchers all tell me they need help, and the sheriff says they need protection, and the veterans need homes. So I think by putting these two groups together, and if the farmers and ranchers can teach veterans how to operate a farm and a ranch, they can help guarantee our food supply in the coming years.
Well, when I was in Arizona to speak at a fundraiser for Ramos and Campion back in 2008, 2008, I want to say.
I believe so.
We're at a biker place out in the countryside outside of Phoenix.
I was there. I was there, sir. I'm sorry we didn't meet.
It was a great turnout, and the bikers were completely supportive of what we were doing, and you know, it was a really, really positive thing with guest groups and speakers from all around the country.
I put Jose Campion and his wife, because he was a biker, I put him on the cover of my Free American magazine that I'm holding up. Betrayed by Homeland Security. Monica Ramos and her husband, Border Patrol agent Ignacio Ramos, in prison for doing his job. I passed that out to every Border Patrol agent. I gave every Border Patrol stop point in Arizona and New Mexico a bundle of these magazines to take back. And we did get him out. We did succeed in getting him out. And I want to thank you for your help.
Well, it was a tough fight, and you know, we didn't expect to get that one, but it came through at the end of the Bush administration. But it was something that should have never happened. And the message has been sent that if
I would like to invite you to come speak at this event. It's going to be a 2-day event, and on the Friday night, I'm going to take a ride down to the Gadsden Hotel in Douglas, Arizona. And that's been there since 1903, and they're giving us all half price off their rooms that night. So there'll be a little side run down there. They'll be camping at the airport. I'm confirming all that in the next 2 days, but we're going to have Sheriff Joe Arpaio speaking there. We're going to have Sheriff Larry Devers speaking there. Probably have Sheriff Paul Babot speaking there, and I'd like to have you speaking there.
Well, I'll definitely see if I can make it. Send me the details in an email.
11. I will send you that, and I'll send you the show.
All right. Sounds great, Clay. I appreciate the opportunity.
But again, you know, outside of setting up, you know, a little village to be able to defend you and help your family and help and try to survive, what else can we do? I mean, we're even missing 81 congressmen who took an expense-paid trip over to Israel. You know, so who do we have representing us here? I mean, other than Larry Pratt, Gun Owners America, people like you, who do we have? Ron Paul is pretty well ignored by the mainstream.
Well, we're currently endorsing and supporting about 137 members of the U.S. Congress and Senate, and those names are on the Alipac.us website, and for those on our email alerts, we're going to be releasing the list here soon as we launch our formal 2012 elections endorsement process and candidate support process. So we've got about 130 up there, but it's not enough. There has to be, you know, over 200 before we can have more of an impact.
Well, I would like you speaking there. We've got, and I'd like your help in promoting this. You know, this, the message that you're trying to get out is exactly the message that the Sheriff Devers wants. This ain't about race. It's about our laws. It's about our safety. It's about the productivity of our public here. And again, you know, I'm even going to use some of Obama's quotes, because the rural areas are important, and they are trying to drive Americans out of these areas. My God, they got signs up here saying there's illegal aliens in this area. If you're an American, you should stay out. I've
heard about that.
That's over in Paul Babou's county.
Yep. Well, Clay, I appreciate the invite. Send me the info, and we'll take a look at it. As long as every other group is peaceful and racially inclusive as Alipac is, we'll see what we can do to be there.
All right, sir. They will be. I guarantee you that, sir.
All right. You have a great day.
Thank you. Thank you for being on with me. Bye-bye now. Bye-bye. All right. Folks, I need your support. We are trying to do stuff. I met with Harley Davidson yesterday. They've given me the okay. Their logos are up on Free American website, and you know, without putting our military back, that'd be a great idea. That'd be a good use of that, man. You could wave at all the Mexican senoritas across the water. At any rate, I need you to buy a book, folks. I need you to pick up a book, copy Mystery Babylon, or my biker fiction, Trevor Cameron, Terrorist Hunter. And the new novel that I'm coming out with is about abolishing all laws against victimless crimes. What would happen in the future if we abolished all laws against victimless crimes? And that's I need to write books. In the meantime, I'm organizing this. I'm going to put on this event. I'm going to get the speakers out there. I've already hooked up with the veterans parades and everything in Tucson. It's all kind of working together. But I got to travel. I got to go places. I need you to make a donation today. If you're listening, if you care, I need you to make a donation. Go to clay@freeamerican.com. Go to PayPal and send it to clay@freeamerican.com. If you send at least a $20 donation, I'll get you a copy of one of my books by PDF. Yeah, Rabbit, you want to show me you're real? Send me $20 or stay out of my room forever. I'll never put a guest up again. You're either part of it and you're either working for us or you're on the other side and you don't get into my conferences. You don't get to know what I know. I'm going to turn the Free American back into a magazine, and we're going to work on that. Yeah, the cops are trying to stop you from videotaping it. The courts are upholding our rights to do that. They don't want exposure. They don't want exposure. All right, what do we got here? Let me see here. We're okay, I think I'm out of time. I think I'm just about out of time, except I can't find it here. Let's see. Take that one out too. Okay. Alright. Thanks, Bubby. I appreciate you listening, man. I appreciate it. And
call recording has been completed.
Now, let's see, where else we at? Okay. Again, it's freeamerican.com. That's got my phone numbers. You can call and order books. You can talk to me. If you got land you wanna work on, you got farms, whatever. You know, I'm here. I am the most accessible talk show host that it's out there. You can call me up. You can talk to me. You can get me on my motorcycle sometimes. And I need your support. I've got books you need to read. Do it. That's all. Do it. Sign up for it. Mystery Babylon, One Bloody Alabaster Eye. This is the first in the fiction series, but not quite fiction. Not quite fiction. Based on a lot of reality, a lot of people that I've known over the years.